Hello, everyone. As promised, I'm going to bring you my coverage of the Nobel Peace Prize. Nobel Peace Prize was held yesterday, as you all know, October 7th, 2016, and the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize was President Juan Manuel Santos. Juan Manuel Santos. He is the president of Colombia. And uh, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize because of his work to end uh, the the war in Colombia between the FARC rebels and the government. And this war is the longest running war in the Americas. Um, and Here's the quote that he gave after winning. He said, "I invite everyone to join our strength, our minds, and our hearts in this great national endeavor so that we can win the most important prize of all, peace in Colombia." What happened was that about 4 years ago, they started the peace negotiation process, trying to uh, you know, create a more permanent ceasefire, not just a ceasefire, but a complete disarmament and peaceful coalescence between the FARC rebels and the government. And obviously, a big part of that was that, they were going to have to forgive a lot of the uh, crimes that the FARC rebels had committed, not just uh, cocaine cocaine trafficking and smuggling, but also uh, murders. You know, Farkas murdered thousands of people, and so they started talks 4 years ago to come to some peace accord, and then 5 days before yesterday, 5 days before the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded, they had a referendum, and the Colombian citizens were to vote on whether or not they were going to accept this peace accord. And Juan Manuel Santos' main rival in this endeavor was Mr. Alvaro Uribe, who was uh, who was Santos' predecessor. He was president before Santos. Mr. Uribe was, and it's interesting. Uribe was not with the FARC rebels. Uribe saw that Santos wanted peace with the FARC rebels. He saw that Santos wanted to make peace with the rebels as a representative of the Colombian government, and he said that Santos was a traitor because he was asking the Colombian people to forgive the FARC rebels for all their crimes so that we could have peace in Colombia. And so uh, the pollsters predicted that the peace accord would win the vote of the people, but of course it did not. 50.2 people voted against it, and the decision to choose Santos for the Nobel Prize seemed sort of like uh, something that the United Nations would do. It seemed that way. Uh, of course, the war in Colombia, the war with the FARC rebels has claimed over 220,000 lives so far. Uh, but it seemed it seemed something it seemed something really more of a I don't know if this is the right term, but more of a nation building type thing because you know uh, obviously Juan Manuel Santos scheduled the vote for the peace accord 5 days before the Nobel Peace Prize. So people may perhaps people were thinking that Juan Manuel Santos was trying to use this to gain fame for himself with the Nobel Prize committee, and maybe that was what happened, or maybe I mean perhaps they wanted to vote against this so that he would not get a mandate. Basically, if if the Nobel Peace Prize Committee had if it, okay, basically they were trying to prevent Juan Manuel Santos from being legitimized by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee by being chosen as the winner of the Nobel Prize for his work in the peace accord. They didn't want him to get a mandate, like like when Obama won his second term, when George W. Bush won his second term, they had a mandate, and this was sort of. It seems as though they wanted to. They wanted Juan Manuel Santos to lose the vote, uh, so that he would not be made. Uh, he would not have the power of the international community behind him when he went for these peace accords. And but that might not work because he won the Nobel Prize anyway, and he's still president. He was not. They did not vote him out of office, obviously. So he'll still be able to uh, continue with the peace accords, and perhaps he gain more political power, and maybe he can, I mean, do an executive order like Obama, and he can get a peace accord passed without any votes. You know, it would be a little bit strange if he could not do that in Colombia, but we can do that in the United States. That would be a little bit strange, you know. But yeah, so there was some controversy. The Colombian people were on all sides. Some people said that Juan Manuel Santos was a traitor for trying to befriend the FARC rebels. Some people say that you know, the FARC rebels should be running the show, and that uh, they even asked why uh, the FARC rebels were not given the Nobel Peace Prize, along with Juan Manuel Santos, for their uh, complicitness, for their cooperation in the peace accords that were supposed to pass 5 days before yesterday, and uh, the Nobel Prize committee. gave a very interesting answer. The one who made the announcement was Miss Coleman Five, and she said that the Nobel Committee never comments on people who did not win the Nobel Prize. Basically, it, she said that we can't tell you why we did not choose somebody else other than the person who won. And that was interesting because when I did my Nobel Prize research, the website clearly said that uh, they can't discuss anybody, they can't discuss any of the candidates, even the one who wins the Nobel Prize. They can't discuss that for 50 years after he wins it. But when I watched the Nobel Prize coverage, they explained why they chose. They gave a good long speech and a public uh, statement as to why they chose, public explanation as to why they chose Juan Manuel Santos, president of Colombia, to be the winner of the Nobel Prize. So it was a little interesting. You know, I was thinking that maybe they fudged the rules for political reasons. Like they want, it would have been one thing if they had said, "Okay, we're just going to pick Juan Manuel Santos, and we're not going to explain why." But they had to make it emphatic. They had to explain that this is exactly why we're doing this because he did this, and we judge that as being correct or positive. And so that's a very interesting thing. So uh, I'll see if anybody. I thought they were going to announce all the categories like physics uh, and things like that, or sciences. So they just announced one person. So I'm going to check and see if people won in different categories or if they were all going for one prize. I'm inexperienced as far as Nobel prizes are concerned, so I'm gonna check that out. So let me know what you think about this new series, and I'll see you later. Bye.